All right, Oval fans. Now, originally, I was going to do this video last week. Basically, because somebody brought it to my attention, and I didn't think too much about it at the time, but it was about the subject of, wait a minute. So, dang it, I forgot the name. Basically, Rocksville, Virginia, the location of the town where Ruthless takes place, is give or take 3 hours from DC. And this has been said a couple times on the Ruthless series when Brian talks about, hey, I got to go X amount of hours from DC where he lives to be an undercover deputy at the sheriff's office in order to investigate the compound. And in the Oval, it's been stated, based on the character saying it, for example, it's only a few miles from where the cabin was that Max and Bobby were staying before it got blown up. But then it's a couple hours away from, the White House and where Richard lives. So give or take 3 hours. Let's say 2 to 3 hours. Let's just be safe. Because of the fact that obviously Richard and Nancy don't live in the same neighborhood that Brian and his wife Lynn does on the Ruthless series. So let's just be safe and say 2.5 hours. Okay, let me just say 2.5 hours. And the question was, Jeremy, when Dale called 911, what exactly happened? Did paramedics and whatnot have to travel a couple hours to get to the location of where the wreck occurred in order to get Sharon to the hospital? Because St. Rhodes, where the hell is it? Well, it seems safe to say that St. Rhodes is the same hospital we saw in season 1 after Richard got shot at the pharmacy, meaning that St. Rhodes isn't that far away from where Richard, Nancy, Sam, Priscilla, where they live at. Because of the fact that Miss Jody told Richard, who was quote unquote 40 minutes away from home after he had taken Priscilla's vehicle, to meet up at the hospital because you're too far away to get to the house in time before Barry's taken to the hospital, so go to St. Rhodes. So St. Rhodes must be within the vicinity of where the main characters live, meaning that it's a couple hours away from the compound. Now, some people have been saying, what if Sharon was airlifted there? That's not uncommon. You're absolutely right. But my question is this. There aren't any other hospitals. Obviously, it's easy to say, well, Jeremy, Tyler Perry wrote it that way, so it doesn't make sense. Very true. But, I mean, when I think about the other big question, people say, Jeremy, you're overthinking this. As always, this is what I do. How do we know the car wreck or the truck didn't flip over close to where, DC was? I think that it's safe to assume that was not the case. This was probably still close to Rocksville because of the fact that the moment Richard backed his truck away from the compound, that's when Daikon came out, said this is bad, took a couple of guys to get into the van to run him off the road. I think it's safe to assume that the truck accident occurred not too far away from Rocksville, in my opinion, because if you want to talk about time and whatnot, the Rakadouchi compound isn't in town. It's away from the town. It's kind of like, Wayne Manor in Gotham City, where it's kind of up on a hill when compared to Gotham, where, there has to be a decent amount of travel between where Bruce Wayne lives to Gotham City. Just like when it comes to the compound, because of the fact that Dale's parents, they live kind of in the country, in the woods, which is where I live, honestly, so I can relate to that. So they're a good distance away from town. They're close enough to the compound that they can hear the singing and whatnot, but they aren't like right up there at it. So when it comes to the compound, you can say Rocksville, Virginia is maybe 2.5 hours from DC, but you might want to add in another 20 minutes or so to get to the gates of the compound, because there are a couple of checkpoints actually from the front of the compound to the road leading off to the highway. So basically it's like a dirt road you have to travel through. So I think that it's ridiculous that it was probably a couple hours time between Sharon being transported to the hospital to getting to the hospital, which could explain how she lost the baby. But I just feel like St. Rhodes is the only hospital that will be seen or named in the Ruthless and the Oval series. Now, that's not to say St. Rhodes isn't something that's the name of the hospital for. No, honestly, I think Sisters and Bruh have a different hospital. Yeah, I think that's pretty safe to assume. We see the hospital pretty frequently due to Tom working there and Bruh. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say that it's a different hospital on that continuity from this one. So, yeah, I think it's kind of wonky writing because it just doesn't make sense. Like, were there no paramedics in the, vicinity that could have picked up Sharon? Like, why did it have to be St. Rose? I mean, convenience, because think about it this way. If Sharon was at a different hospital than Barry, then there wouldn't be the scenes between Dale, Kareem, Richard, and Nancy. It would just be a lot of back and forth. So I think that's the cleanest way of putting it. But I'm just going to throw this out here. Given the fact that Kareem literally said Sharon doesn't have health insurance, which could just mean that working at the pharmacy doesn't include said insurance. We know that Hunter is going to call her the next day. Do you think it's possible that he will take care of her hospital bills? So if she was airlifted and whatnot, I'm no expert, but I don't think that's cheap. I think it's a possibility that, good old President Franklin might pay the bill. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And, I think it's pretty ridiculous, but what can you do?